Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the Halloween rare machine that has just gone live in North America. So, a couple of housekeeping things before I get started. First things first, in order to evolve any of the Halloween cards to their weapon assist form, you need to have this Halloween lollipop, and it only costs 3,000 monster points, and you cannot acquire this outside of the event. So what you should do now is just buy a couple of them right now. 3,000 monster points is basically nothing at this point in time in the game, so go out there and buy yourself some of these Halloween lollipops, because especially if you're an older player who's rolled at least all the freebies in the past, you probably have some of the bottom rarity cards, and there's a strong likelihood that the bottom rarity cards are going to be best served in their weapon assist form. In addition to that, I want to mention that the Halloween event is coming at the correct time of the year. And this is unusual for North America because we know the beach is usually for the summertime, but we're having beach events now. And that's kind of unusual when you think about it, but at the same time, not so much, because in JP, they are about 2 to 3 months ahead of schedule. But some events, like Halloween, we get at the exact same time. And that's important because the way power creep works is that, generally speaking, cards that are released in the future tend to be stronger than those that have been released in the past. And because we're getting Halloween several months, quote-unquote, ahead of schedule, because it's basically almost at the same time as JP, we're getting potentially some power-crept cards, and at the same time, it also means we have some foreknowledge or foresight as to what we might be able to actually build around in the future, because right now, Halloween cotton may not look the greatest at this exact moment in North America, but we know for certain that Daytona is going to come at some point in time, and Halloween cotton will be special then. But I'll talk about Halloween cotton more when I get there. But with that being said, let me do my free roll. I do my free roll every single year, and I have rolled in, oh, it's going to be sad. Maybe Layla will be nice. Not quite, but I've rolled every time in the past, and I have rolled in some seasonal Super Godfest where like Halloween cards were featured, and that's how I got some of my 8-star rarity cards on my other account. But with that being said, let us stop looking at this sad 5-star and instead look at all the cards in general. So for the most part, actually, before I actually jump here, I feel like I should... Oh no, go away, Hilda. Everyone knows my secrets. If you go look at the rolling rates, it's not such a good rolling rate, unfortunately. Like, you have... That's the wrong thing. You have a 3% chance to acquire any of the 9-star rarities and a 4.5% chance for the 8 stars. So I honestly feel like this is really more of a monster exchange or IAP for Orb Skin event, and then just do your freebie and just get out of there. Because the chances are you're not going to roll something you actually want to own. I feel like the bottom rarity definitely populates the vast majority. And for the 5 and 6 stars, and even some of the 7 stars, they have questionable value. So I would honestly just take a look at what you can monster exchange for instead. So I'm going to take a look at all the monster exchange cards and all the orb skin cards because they are more valuable at this point in time. So first things first, we have the 9-star Halloween Suou, and the 9-star base cards require 5 7-star Godfest exclusives, so expensive trade fodder for the most part. So don't trade for these unless you feel like you're going to gain significant value. So for Halloween Suou, they now have a single skill boost in their pre-transform state, and you need 20 turns in order to fully transform. When Suou does transform, he gives 5 turns of haste. And you might think, well, 5 turns of haste seems completely excessive. Well, it may not necessarily be that way because it is still 5 effective skill boosts, but done in such a way that if it's a multi-step transforming card, you can greatly hasten that process and shut it down and just transform a second time much quicker. Or if you have like a longer transforming card, say like Gillian, who is like 27 or so turns, Halloween Suou helps you get to that point much quicker. And then once Halloween Suou does transform, you have double 7, double VDP, so respectable amounts of personal damage. And they have an interesting 4-turn cooldown. Their 4-turn cooldown gives you a way to disable your other active skills for 2 turns. So make sure they are the last active skill you use prior to touching them, because for that turn itself you can't use them, and then the subsequent turn you can't use any active skills. It affects your whole team, and that's definitely a big drawback. But then after doing so, you get 4 times attack for this particular monster. So Halloween Suou will do huge amounts of damage. It does not overwrite any existing debuffs, unfortunately. You also get 1 turn of reducing damage by 75% and 1 turn of 4 times attack. And I don't like the idea that it disables your active skills for 2 turns, because for the following turn afterwards, you're completely vulnerable. You can't use orb changers, you can't use other additional damage reduction, you can't put up anything to save yourself, and that definitely can be a bit of a drawback. So unless you know for certain that you can shield safely and you don't need an active skill in the subsequent turn because this active skill does give you a shield, then maybe you can argue to use it. I still think it's a bit dodgy overall. I'm not a huge fan of it. As a leader, they want to match fire and hard orbs. They don't have a system style active skill of their own active, so you can't give a steady flow of these orbs, which can be problematic because all your damage reduction is tied to actually matching fire and heart orbs. So I think they're okay, but like I really don't think they're as valuable because Halloween Chakeol is coming up soon after Madhu, and they're a much stronger place to place your trade fodder. So for Halloween Madhu, she has 4 skill boosts, and she has a unique active skill that gives you bonus combo count, which is cool, but then you get for 2 turns, damage reduction by 50%. So that could be argued as effective skill boost because if you can survive a hit, you can stall a bit longer. So their 4 skill boosts plus 2 turns of shielding could be 6 effective skill boosts with a shield, but they also give 3 turns of delay. And you might think, wow, delay and shield, kind of silly having them both at the same time. Well, not really. We look at Kaiba, or in his new form. It is wonderful because you can delay floor 1 to transform yourself, and then the shield lets you tank large hits later on in the dungeon. The exact same thing can be applied to Madhu's active skill here. Same value there. Furthermore, she has 6 late. Well, she has a huge attack stat. Huge attack stat. So whenever she makes a VDP, monstrous amounts of damage. She can potentially double damage cap. But at the same time, I have seen some players utilize the unmatchable. No, the unmatchable clear. Big latent in order to take advantage over TPAs. You match those TPAs in dark or fire, you can clear unmatchable. It's something that you possibly could do, but she's just a big bulky thing that does large amounts of VDP damage. In terms of her leader skill, if you're a fire or dark card, you have large stats, you have large attack stat, you have a pretty sizable amount of damage reduction, but the drawback is you don't have, her active skill can't system themselves, and you don't get bonus combos, you don't get auto follow attack, and you usually want to have at least one of those to pair with someone who can do the other. For her first weapon assist, you get that single TPA, you get an L. Single L is always nice. You get that same useful active skill of bonus combos, damage reduction, and a shield. Again, it's useful at the beginning of the dungeon, oftentimes useful at the end of the dungeon, or even midway through the dungeon. Just a useful active skill overall, and it can be helpful to inherit on potentially a low base cooldown card who has something of value to bring if you use their base skill. Her new weapon assist has 2 team healths and 2 enhanced dark orbs along with a single L. So bulk, a bit of passive damage, and the utility of the L, along with an active skill that gives you 75% damage reduction for a single turn and clears all awoken binds. Not a full cleric active skill, but at the same time, we are starting to see more instances where there are needs to have multiple cleric style active skills back to back, like say Shura 3 from floor 3 to floor 4. You have unmatchable floor 3, awoken bind floor 4. You can either wait it out or like just ignore the unmatchable initially, but the point of the matter is having potentially a backup secondary cleric active skill is not a bad thing, and the awakenings are helpful. And now we come to Halloween Chakeel, who is a new 9-star card, and they are by far the best card in this event, I'd say, for the most part, especially for the top rarity. Like, I guess Halloween Cotton also has arguments to be made. She's also tremendously strong, but Halloween Chakeol is amazing. And even though she only has 8 awakenings, it just means she has room to grow for next year. So, if we look at her awakening, she has 4 skill boosts. She has a single big time extend, tape resist, enhanced dark combos, so passive damage for everyone, and then 2 10 combo awakenings. And through super awakenings, you can get super blind or L or more passive damage for dark. And with double 10 combo, you have an amazing amount of personal damage, along with a large attack stat. And she covers green and dark colors. So for dark teams, the green color coverage can be a little awkward. It's oftentimes Nergigante, and Nergigante is by no means a bad card. If we take a look at him now, Nergigante, I hope that's how we spell it. Yes, it is. We look at Nergigante, he has double 10 combo, and he has 3 enhanced dark orbs and follow-up attack. But follow-up attack is probably worthless at this point in time, so he really has 8 awakenings along with Chakeol. He does have a bigger attack stat, but both are going to double cap anyway, so it really doesn't matter that much. Yes, Nergigante has bigger stats, but the big advantage Chakeol has over him is that she has 2 more skill boosts, so easier to transform, and a more valuable active skill. Nergigante's active skill gives you a column of dark, column of hearts, and 7 turns of dark skyfalls on a 7-turn cooldown. So you can loop this permanent dark skyfall buff. Huge amounts of damage output potentially, but if we take a look at Chakeol here, she has another loopable active skill that gives you 8 turns of 35% damage reduction on an 8-turn cooldown. So you can have a permanent upkeep of 35% damage reduction. And this stacks with your leader skills, which means you have a huge amount of additional bulk, which in turn makes it easier to survive stuff. You can tank large hits, you can just have an excessive amount of effective health on top of already bulky teams. And the fact that she can double damage cap with ease, she has solid stats all around, that tape resist as well, because why not? Super blind through Super Awakenings. She is a superior choice to Nergigante. And if I had her, and I'm strongly considering of monster exchanging for her, I would use her over Nergigante, I think, in virtually every scenario, unless I just want to play with dragons, because this game is called Puzzle and Dragons. So she is going to be probably most likely the best in slot for any dark team if you need wood coverage. Even just without the wood coverage, it's great best in slot, I think, overall for hard content, because the extra damage reduction makes everything much easier to survive. You can tank Hexazeon's big hits. You can take Gil's Lego's big hits. You can't take Black Albrecht in MD1, but you can tank the other stuff with greater ease, so high value there. And even for wood teams, covering dark can sometimes be awkward, and they can oftentimes be utilized. You could potentially use them even on your Nautilus teams. They have 4 skill boosts, like I said, the damage reduction. They will double cap, even with their sub-attribute, which is kind of outrageous when you truly think about it. So she's just a truly magical, all-around powerful card. And as a leader, they do have strong leader skill multipliers, but it's just nothing to write home about. They're really just a great, powerful sub. In terms of their weapon assist, their first weapon has negative RCV for the owning card. So if you run something like Gung-Ho Belial, who has a huge amount of personal healing, you can run these negative RCV awakenings on other cards and not have any fear. Main reason why Akintor's weapon has become more valuable, because Gung-Ho Belial offsets that RCV penalty, and when you do inherit this successfully, you get Tape and Cloud Resist. No one else gives this, Tape or Cloud Resist. Pretty magical stuff overall, a bit of passive damage, and that same active skill. So there's a good chance you probably won't be able to, well, you can't loop this, of course, if you inherit this, but at the same time, when you throw this shield up, it's going to last for such a long time. It's going to keep you alive for a prolonged period of time. There will be a bit of downtime, but as long as you can mitigate or like time the downtime in a favorable manner, you still have that shield. But at the same time, I would not pursue their weapon assists unless you actually have duplicates, because they're such a strong card in their base form. For their other weapon assists, they give a tape resist, they give team health and team RCV along with 2 enhanced dark orbs. Nice weapon assist overall from an awakenings point of view. If you need bulk, you need passive damage and more healing and tape, it brings a lot of value to the table. And remember, even if your team is not dark, if they can capitalize upon the enhanced dark orbs, they can be useful. For instance, green teams like Nautilus, I say Nautilus a lot because green is usually just Nautilus. Nautilus converts dark to hard. So if those dark orbs are enhanced, your hard orbs are enhanced, it increases your healing output. It's not just for mono dark teams, this weapon assist, as long as you take advantage of the dark orbs. And then the active skill tied here gives you 3 turns of 75% damage reduction. Good chance you're going to survive whatever hit is coming your way with 75% damage reduction on top of your other forms of damage reduction. And then you have 3 turns of orb movement time and RCV. So a great almost universal buffer with damage reduction. Nice flexibility there. It's a long enough cooldown that it won't accidentally overcharge. I think it's definitely a valuable weapon assist overall, but again, their base form is so strong. Like, it's just going to help you push through new endgame challenging content with greater ease. And now we come to the 8-star cards, and these cards are still monster exchangeable, but Halloween Sonia Gran is sadly not one of those cards you want to do. I rolled her a long time ago in a seasonal Super Godfest, I think maybe last year's actually, and she's kind of cool, and she does gain the 5 attribute damage awakening, so she does have more personal damage. With double 7 and that, you're like 4 times 4.5, you're like 18 times personal damage. Not terrible, not great either. Has a reasonable attack stat. You have skill charge, you have a god killer, you have some movement time, you do a bit of everything. Their active skill can be potentially a 6-turn cooldown with the skill charge, and it gives you orb movement time and an attack buff on a 6-turn cooldown. So not bad, along with giving you a board unlock and changing all orbs to all attributes. Not a bad thing to have for your rainbow teams if you need movement time. It's a reasonably short cooldown. If you're playing on 7x6, there's a good chance you're hitting that skill charge every single time. And if again, that 18 times with that god killer does end up doing large amounts of personal damage. Maybe you match a TPA. So she can be reasonable. It's just that I don't feel like she excels or exceeds other available options. For their leader skill, they have a large amount of health conferred to dragons and devil types, and bonus combos with a reasonably high attack multiplier. So you could argue maybe you can pair with Story Sakuya in order to get that auto follow attack. You definitely can utilize leader swapping potentially with them, because again, they don't transform, but at the same time, Sakuya is just better with Mariel, and if you have either one of those, you probably will not consider Halloween Sonia Gran. So like, I think she's nice, but definitely not worth trading for. In regards to her new weapon assist, it gives you an enhanced orb of every kind, which again is kind of cool. It does definitely increase the healing output for rainbow teams on that owning card because of the enhanced hard orb awakening, and a skill boost. So like a reasonable plethora of awakenings makes everyone's damage output go up a little higher, but again, I don't think it's the highest impact weapon assist out there in the game. The active skill is okay, not magical by any means. And now we come to Halloween Cotton, and Halloween Cotton is the other highly valuable card that you may want to actually even have 2 copies of, because Daytona is coming to North America soon. And let's take a look at Daytona first. So, Daytona, in his final transformed state, has a zillion TPAs and double 10 combo, with a monstrously large attack stat. And their active skill boosts the damage per TPA awakening, kind of like Nautilus or Royal Oak or Rosalind, etc. They boost the damage based off of a particular awakening. And it's not difficult to have a monstrous attack multiplier. With double Daytonas, you already have 10 TPAs. That's already 2 times damage. Throwing in other cards with TPAs, which you are going to do, will make your attack buff become bigger and bigger and even just more outrageous. In fact, he can cap on his main attribute and his sub attribute. So he's a transforming card that quote unquote double caps. Kind of disgusting. I watched my friend play with this and he just thinks it's absolutely amazing, and it's pretty disgusting overall. So point is, you want lots of TPAs. And now we come to Halloween Cotton. And Halloween Cotton has, lo and behold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 TPAs with a 10 combo. So obviously not as much personal damage as Daytona, but they can definitely take the double damage cap latent. They can deal huge amounts of personal damage. Remember, if you have 2 Halloween Cottons on your team and the Daytonas, you have 3.2 times attack multiplier for everyone. You probably have more TPAs scattered throughout. You're going to be dealing huge amounts of damage. Cotton will be double capping with relative ease. And then you might be thinking, well, all these TPA cards, they do so much damage, but they have no VDPs. How will you deal with void spawns? Well, Halloween Cotton will be your solution, because for 1 turn, she gives you +3 combo count, which means you're going to hit zillions of combos anyways. 10 combo, easy to achieve. You will also have 1 turn of void damage void. And with 2 Cottons, you have 2 turns of void damage void. It's kind of like using Exodias on Phyllis teams. But unlike Exodias from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Collab, you can actually acquire Cottons without rolling for them. You can monster exchange for them. I got 1 Cotton in the past. I'm strongly considering monster exchanging for another one because they're cheap trade fodder. As an 8-star seasonal card, they only require 4 6-star Godfest exclusives. So if you are interested in utilizing Daytona, obviously you have to roll 1. Having 2 Halloween Cottons is a great thing to have for sure. And in addition to that, you get a board changer of Light, Dark, and Heal. And those Dark Orbs can also be TPA'd, which makes Cotton potentially cap, maybe even, I don't know exactly how much damage she's going to deal in her sub-attribute, but it's going to be a large amount as well. So damage flies out from this given team as long as you have these cards. And with Cotton on the team, your life is much easier because all those void spawns are dealt with. I don't really think any void spawn is going to survive for more than 2 turns, because if you think about it, your leaders are double capping with their sub-attributes as well. So main sub, so that's 4 caps there. You have Cottons, again, that's probably like 8 caps, let's say. You've already probably dealt more than enough damage for most spawns. So having 2 Cottons is probably enough for that output. And in addition to that, she also can gain more skill boost or super resist. Probably you want to get super resist because that's pretty amazing value overall. So as a whole, Cotton is pretty magical for the most part. And as a leader skill, like, they do have nice multipliers, and the only drawback is you have to match Light and Dark Orbs to get some damage reduction. Not all their damage reduction, they just get some damage reduction with Light and Dark. So you can definitely pair them with maybe even Daytona, let's say, because if we look at Daytona, they don't actually change Dark Orbs away. So Dark Orbs are preserved. So you have your own Halloween Cotton, pair with a Daytona. Obviously not as magical as double Daytona, but you have more auto follow attack, you have a large amount of bulk, and you have, again, those 2 turns, well, void damage void if you have 2 Cottons. So a strong leader potential pairing overall with Daytona if you don't actually get to roll him. So something to keep in mind. Powerful card overall for the future. This is one significant benefit we have of having this event come earlier, because we now know for certain that Halloween Cotton is great right now for the future. And then the next and final monster exchange card you can acquire is Halloween Verdandi. She has been improved. She has 777 combo, 2 attack while above 50%, and a VDP Super Awakening. So she can deal large amounts of damage, for sure. And again, she covers Dark and Wood, so obviously not as good as Chakeel. Possibly, like, Nergigante is probably a better choice as well, but at least Verdandi can do void damage, which is something Nergigante cannot, which does give you an edge in that sense there. And her active skill gives you 2 turns of 50% damage reduction. And damage reduction is, again, valuable in various content. Shura 2 and 3, love that stuff. Even in MD1, you can possibly use the shield to tank the first floor a bit more easily to help yourself transform. And then you get a board changer of Wood, Dark, and Hard Orbs. So, powerful active skill in that sense if you can leverage the damage reduction. But again, the board changer is good. You can solve like the full poison board in Shura 2 if you get Oku. You can overcome the red spawn of what's her face in Shura 3, like just makes all red orbs. You can counter that with a board changer, things like that. So as a whole, I think Halloween Verdandi is reasonable. Would I monster exchange for her? No, because again, Halloween Cotton probably will take priority over that. But again, a useful card overall. More options for green coverage for your mono dark teams. Maybe I might possibly swap out my Nergigante and put Verdandi instead for my Shura 3 team that I'm just still kind of tentatively building. Maybe, so I have that VDP damage with less stress. But again, it may be difficult for her to double cap that easily just because her personal damage is much lower unless you're above 50%. Even then, it's lower. For Halloween Inahime, now we're coming to the Orb Skin cards. So if you like any of the following cards, you can directly purchase them with real life money. So for Halloween Inahime, he has Super Poison Resist, 777 combo, and a Cross Awakening, along with another Cross or a VDP through their Super Awakening. So potential for large amounts of personal damage for sure, with a large attack stat. Their active skill on a 14-turn cooldown gives you 3 turns of 50% damage reduction, and then 3 turns of attack buff, and 3 turns of delay. So delay and shield, again, it was weird at first, but it works out because you can delay to transform or shield to tank. Valuable all around. Similar ideas to like Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or from one of the other cards in this event here. So point of the matter is useful active skill overall. In terms of their leader skill, they're okay. They give fixed 10 seconds movement time, so you don't have to worry about time debuffs. You have 50% damage reduction when you match fire and dark. Problematic is you don't have a good system active skill to generate these on a regular basis. And about the damage reduction, you're quite squishy, so I don't really foresee them being that great of a card in as a leader. But as a sub, they're definitely reasonably strong for the most part. They can deal reasonable amounts of damage. They have a super resist. It's good stuff all around. But if you don't like them in that form, their weapon assist provides some value. That active skill is the same as their base form. So again, shields and damage reduction, useful stuff all around. And they give you a single skill boost, an L Awakening, and enhanced fire orb. So a reasonable spread of awakenings. It's not bad, it's not terrible, it's something that might be helpful. Their other weapon resist gives you bind immunity, cloud resist, and 3 enhanced fire orbs, and then 4 turns of 50% damage reduction. So quite a long lasting shield, and then 2 turns of damage absorb void. So it's an interesting way that they combine both aspects that you could leverage potentially both things in different times. Not a bad thing overall. 2 turns of damage absorb is sufficient for Shura 3. It can be a little dodgy for MD1, but again, it's still viable potentially as long as it's at least 2 turns. So it's something that could possibly work out well. Again, I'm not hugely impressed with them as an orb skin. Like, they are nice, they are new, but I don't think they're that big of a game changer. For Halloween Bastet, this is a card that I've wanted for a long time and I never purchased her. And like, she still is good. She actually got buffed. Another great dark green coverage card. She has 777 combo, large amounts of time extend, and can take a VDP Super Awakening. So she can deal respectable amounts of personal damage against void spawns. Her active skill is an incredibly powerful 3-turn cooldown that gives you 1 turn of movement time and RCV buff, and a personal attack buff for Bastet. So Bastet will definitely deal much more damage, so that is obviously helpful. It doesn't overwrite attack debuffs for the whole team because it only affects this one particular monster, but hey, a buff is a buff, why not? So with a short 3-turn cooldown, you can inherit an active skill of your choice to have a higher impact at the very beginning of a dungeon. That is a big deal because you could have your delay, your shield, or whatever you need for the very first floors to solve, and then you can rely on this great, almost universal full buffer active skill later on. So valuable card overall. It's a nice utility card. Can take really any latent you want. It could be like a surge. It could be whatever you need to have. Could maybe be like double cap depending on the team. Maybe she can deal enough damage depending on what you are actually running. Maybe your Mojito Yuji teams, if you can make a row and VDP on a regular basis, Bastet will probably hit quite hard. So pretty cool stuff all around. I do like her. I don't know if I would purchase her. Maybe if someone gifted to me, I'll be much more inclined to do so. Like, it is strong, and she always seems to come up as a useful sub to have on a variety of teams because she works well on monocolor or rainbow, because on rainbow teams, you can just take 4/7 combos or to stay at 777 with a skill boost plus. Point is, good flexibility for rainbow or monocolor. The guard break is kind of awkward on monocolor, but it's obviously helpful for rainbow. Still a useful card overall. Her weapon assist is quite spicy as well. You get 2 additional seconds of orb movement time. So if you're hungering for movement time, this is actually a pretty decent solution. And it also has 3 team RCV awakening. So a huge amount of recovery potential has been granted with this weapon assist. So not only are you fixing like your ability to match orbs, you're increasing your capacity to heal. Quite strong from just an awakening's point of view. And then the active skill has that same nice blanket buffer. So again, you could inherit this on top of like a low cooldown card who has something valuable to bring. You can let it overcharge when you know there's going to be an RCV or a movement time debuff. I feel like I would put this on my like 2 cooldown cards that may have transformed in order to have another buff available if I let it charge up a little bit longer. So like a 2-turn cooldown plus 5 turns, I could probably wait for that. I can plan around it. Nice, valuable card overall. I think she is definitely the strongest orb skin card you can purchase at this point in time from the Halloween event. So if you have the capacity to purchase something, Halloween Bastet may be your best course of action. And finally, we come to Halloween Durga. So Halloween Durga has 2 skill boosts. She has double 7 combo, a god killer. She can gain the 5 attribute offensive awakening, which is definitely the best source of damage output for rainbow cards. So probably want to pursue that. For her active skill, she does have a 10-turn cooldown that gives you 5 turns of 30% healing. So it's a bit of healing, which is kind of cool, I guess. You also have 5 turns of 35% damage reduction. So it's actually a modest amount of bulk plus auto healing. Kind of interesting. You unlock the full board and create a full rainbow of 5 colors and hearts. So it's a unique active skill. Again, some damage reduction is needed for Shura 2 and 3 because there's a good chance you only need a little bit more shielding to tank the boss's hits when they're below 50%. So nice thing over there. And because it's long lasting, you have a bigger window in case of you messing up or mistiming and whatnot. It's just more forgiving. As a leader, they are still reasonable. They have large attack multiplier. They have a solid amount of damage reduction with a health multiplier and some auto follow-up attacks. So you obviously want to pair it with something that has a large amount of bonus combos to make sure everyone who has 10 combo taps into it on a more regular basis. And you just need to basically keep your health above 50%. So with the auto healing, it does make it a little bit easier potentially. And I think it's kind of cool, but it obviously can be quite fragile because the damage reduction doesn't take effect if you are below 50% health. So if there's a multi-hit, you get hit, and you're down below half, then the hit is bigger and you have no damage reduction. Obviously a much larger risk overall. So I think it's a reasonable orb skin card, a reasonable leader, but I don't think it's worth pursuing. As the weapon assist, you get bind immunity and 80% poison resist, which is pretty cool. And that same active skill that does give some damage reduction. So again, if you don't have damage reduction anywhere on your given team and you need it for sure at 2 or 3, not a bad solution overall, but I don't think she's worth purchasing. If I had to purchase one, I would purchase Halloween Bastet because she does bring more, she's more flexible, and her weapon assist is actually quite spicy overall. And then that being said, those are all the orb skin and all of the monster exchange cards. And then I just want to touch upon like some of the more notable bottom rarity cards who might have a bit more value, because Halloween Layla has a 4-turn cooldown that makes a row of dark orbs. She has 4 skill boosts, some row awakenings, and a VDP. So she can be utilized for like swipe farming purposes. Not a terrible thing. I don't think it's necessarily worth pursuing. If you have enough Chuans, you're probably okay. Or a Pothis, that new farmable dark card. There's multiple workarounds, but in terms of like coming ready to go and available, Layla, if you roll them, is ready to go and available. Something cool there. I don't think it's worth rolling heavily, but if you did end up rolling, which I do advise against, you probably will pick up a few of these, which can be helpful. And then Halloween Chiyomi in her weapon assist form gives you an attack while below 50% and 2 dark rows. So your mono dark farming teams will love this, because even if you don't take advantage of the board unlock and wood to dark orbs, you just gave that owning card 2 times personal damage and the whole team more damage through the rows. So there is a bit of value there. You can argue, like, sure, if I rolled a little bit or my free rolls, I might get them. And then finally, Halloween Parvati with her weapon assist gives a cross and a tape. Those are just 2 rare awakenings, relatively speaking, and the fact that both of them are together can be cool, especially for newer content like MD1. There are sticky blinds, so that cross awaken counters it, and you definitely want tape resist, especially if you're playing on 6x5 or just even 7x6. You just definitely want tape resist. So having the ability to clear blinds and have tape resist is meaningful at the same time for a low rarity card. Don't let it overcharge, because you probably don't want this active skill, but at the same time, not bad for a bottom rarity. So like, there is a little bit of stuff at the bottom rarity, so maybe if you've never rolled in the past, maybe a couple rolls, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily worth doing so. Like, there is going to be a new special 5 Magic Stone Godfest tomorrow, which I will talk about then, that has the debut of the red submarine, like the red Royal Oak Nautilus. So incredibly strong leaders coming out tomorrow, so probably a better place to spend your Magic Stones. But again, I'll make a video touching upon that tomorrow. So with that being said, let me know what you think about the Halloween event in the comments down below. Do you think it's worth rolling in, or just monster exchanging for Chakeel or Cotton? Because for myself, I'm heavily torn between getting my second Cotton and possibly getting Chakeel as well. So with that being said, hopefully you'll have a truly fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling Halloween.